Okay, so today's episode is about love. And check out the shirt. Boom! Ah, that's the coolest shirt ever. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, listen. Have you ever been in a toxic relationship? Like, no matter how hard you try, you cannot leave this person. It's like they could be totally destructive. They could call you names. They could throw, Beanie Babies at your head, and you just can't quit them like those guys in Brokeback Mountain. There is an explanation for that. And in this episode of Coach Aidan, I'm going to break down what that is and what you can do about it. If you feel like you're in an addictive relationship, I just want to say, first of all, do not beat yourself up about it. Trust me, we've all been there. I've definitely been there. And know that you're not an idiot, because chances are, if you're stuck in an addictive pattern, you might be going, oh, I'm such an idiot, I'm such an idiot, I'm such an idiot. Listen, okay? You are not an idiot, okay? Because if there wasn't any good to be found in the relationship, you wouldn't have anything to be addicted to. And, if it was good, you would have already married them. If it was only bad, then you wouldn't have even started in this relationship. So kudos to you for even thinking about it, and don't beat yourself up. Let me tell you a personal story so that you don't feel so alone. Again, people are like, well, you're a coach now, so you shouldn't reveal your dirty laundry. I disagree. I like to tell people my past experiences so people feel like it could happen to anyone, okay? Addictive relationships can happen to anyone, all right? Check it out. I was in a relationship with a guy, let's call him Mel. That's what I call him in my book. Get it if you don't have a copy. Mel is actually a really nice guy. Mel, also comes from a business background. And I come from a success business background. So we connected immediately. We sat down and we're like, what about strategies to drive sales? What about tools for effective management? What about utilization of search engine optimizations to drive new customer acquisition? And when we started talking about the pros and cons of having a C Corp versus an S Corp versus a limited liability corporation, I was like, I'm in love! He was very experienced, so at the time I was like very much also impressed that, he was also kind. So he wanted to see me succeed, and he was like sharing his wisdom, and he is older than me. And so, it felt nice as someone who was starting my own business to have somebody who was kind of affirming the choices that I was making as far as what I wanted to do, right? He was cute, he was nice, he was smart, he liked my comedy, he enjoyed our time together, and he had a weird laugh just like me. I laughed like, ha ha ha, and he goes, So both of us, we were we were making a symphony of weird laughs. So great on so many levels, but then I realized, get a few drinks in him, you never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes he would be all over me with love. Sometimes he would literally eye screw other people in the room in front of me, and he couldn't control it. And then I would say, what are you doing? Then he would say, I don't know what you're talking about, which made me feel crazy. And that's when things started going kind of weird. I started finding like little white lies that I wasn't happy about, and I would, here's the thing about me. I'm not great at having a poker face. So I'm not gonna be a great lawyer because I can't get my emotions involved. Like, he totally did it, Your Honor. He did it. He's lying. That would be me. And so when I would find these things, I would overreact. I have my faults too, but sometimes he was telling the truth. But sometimes he was lying. So I didn't really know what to believe. And then I started feeling like I couldn't trust him about anything. And then he would do things and then deny that he did them. And then I would be like, but you did it. And he'd be like, no. And then sometimes I would be like, I have an issue with this pattern in our relationship. Then he would go, I don't know what to do. And so now we would have to deal with his emotions instead of my complaint that I started with. And It was like a distraction tactic. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a healthy dynamic after a while. But then, of course, after every fight, we would have a makeup session to blow our minds. So we were like totally hooked on each other. So the pain got so bad that we broke up. I mean, and I say broke up like that because we broke up. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a breakup, it was a breakup. Let's just say it was a very awkward 5-hour ride back from Vegas with occasional threats from him to jump out of the moving vehicle. Now, once again, it's not typical for people who are coaches to share life stories like this, but I think it's important because I want you to feel like you're not alone. It can happen to anybody, and that is how we learn. No shame. That's my game. You know what I mean? So there you go. So one could say that I was in an addictive pattern in this relationship. So what makes an addictive pattern? An addictive pattern in a relationship, an addictive pattern in anything, can be described very well by a research done from the 1970s by a scientist named B.F. Skinner. Now, B.F. Skinner did an experiment with rats, right? And where a rat would push a lever and different things would happen. So what he did was he got a rat, and on one group of rats, he had them push a lever, and food would come as a reward for the rat, right? And every time the rat would push a lever, they would be rewarded with food. So predictably, rats pushed the lever when it got hungry, right? So it wasn't like all about the food. It was just, pushing the lever when it was hungry. Another group of rats, they made it so that you push the lever and they were never getting any food. So no food. And after a while, the rats predictably lost interest in pushing the lever altogether. A third group of rats, they had the rats push a lever and at first gave them food. So push, food, push, food, push, food. Then they started playing mind games with the rats. They started only providing food in an unpredictable pattern occasionally. So it'd be like push, food, push, food, push, food, push, no food. Push, no food, push, food. Oh, push, no food, push, food, push, no food, no food, food, no food. So like that actually created an addictive pattern in the mice. What the rats ended up doing was they were obsessively pushing. Even after the scientist ended up weaning out the food altogether. So he was giving no rewards after he phased it out completely. And the rat was stuck at the lever, pushing on it, pushing on it, pushing on it, pushing on it, because it became addicted to the unpredictable pattern with which it was receiving the reward. Isn't that weird? It reminded me of the times where I went to the casino. I would go to the casino and I would take my mom and my grandma, and they would, if they hit a couple of jackpots in the beginning of our trip, I knew they would lose all their money because they got boom, jackpot, then nothing. But they already are hooked on the reward. So nothing. Always chasing that high. That's kind of what happened to my family. They love the casinos. My grandma actually requested some of her ashes be spread at our nearby Indian casino. And we were going to do it too until we found out it was a felony. So naturally, in the relationship, when you start, it's great. And as you run into issues, the proper thing to do is, this needs to be resolved. You talk about it and you resolve the issues and you move forward together. Once you move forward together, then that's not an issue anymore. So you go, great. And you run across a problem and you work on it together and then you create a resolve and then you move forward again. You want to address the issue, right? And continue your relationship in a way where a majority of your interactions are actually in appreciation of one another, not in opposition, okay? Actually, there's a really interesting formula for this, right? Okay, listen very closely. So again, in the 1970s, I guess they were trying all kinds of stuff in the 1970s. So Dr. Gottman and Dr. Levinson did an experiment with couples, right? And they tracked how many positive interactions couples were having versus negative interactions based on the words they were saying to each other. Like, oh, I love you would be considered a positive. Oh, you're so sweet would be considered a positive. Thank you would be considered a positive. You dumbass hoe would be a negative. You get what I'm saying? So what they found that the ratio of positive to negative had to be at least 5 positives to 1 negative. Anything less than that would be a predictor of an eventual breakup of the relationship with, get this, a 90% accuracy rating, because they tracked the couples over time. And so any couple that had less than 5 to 1 ratio of 5 positive to 1 negative eventually ended up breaking up. So in the case of, me and Mel, like, I had a great experience with him in the beginning. So I was going for that. And things just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. We were both addicted to each other. We were like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. But we weren't getting the reward. And we were definitely not at a 5 to 1 ratio. We really weren't. And so because we were looking for that reward, we both stayed in the relationship way past the expiration date. So what do you do if you are in this pattern? Okay, the first thing you want to do, if you're already in a relationship and you're having a less than 5 to 1 ratio and you're in this pattern, both of you need to sit down and try to resolve whatever issue is happening in order for you to get yourself back up to 5 to 1 minimum, or it can end the relationship. But this is where things are tricky. Both partners have to want to work on the relationship, and both partners must be willing to own their side of wrongs. So, each partner has to be like, okay, well, I did this and this and this wrong, and I will work on this moving forward so that we can, respect each other. And the other partner must go, yeah, I did this wrong, so I'll own this side and we can move forward, blah, blah, blah. So they want to be working together symbiotically for the good of the relationship and be willing to own their side and understand that, they're not perfect and they have to, be willing to look at themselves. If one of the partners is the kind of person that's like, I didn't do anything wrong, it was your fault. See? Oh, and then when you say, well, you hurt my feelings this way, well, you shouldn't have been hurt. If they have this thing where they turn everything around on you and make it your fault because they don't have the ego strength to be able to look at themselves and own what they did wrong, your relationship is doomed. I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do. Because that person's not gonna look and he's just gonna turn the tables on you, right? Conversely, if you're the type of person to go, well, everything would be perfect if they would fix this and this and this and this and this, you may be the problem. So I would think about that. If you're just starting out in a relationship, the goal is to find a partner that you can bond safely with, okay? Where if you feel like if you push a lever, you'll get consistent results. Consistency and safety, that is what we are looking for in our long-term partners, okay? So if a dude gives you responds to your text messages immediately, very quickly in the beginning, and then starts being inconsistent with this patterning, it might not be great for the relationship, right? There was a girlfriend who said, at first he was responding so well, and now he's inconsistent, and I don't know why, and she was like obsessing. And so I had to tell her, look, there's only 2 answers for this. 1, he's not that into you anymore. And 2, he is aware of this patterning that gets women hooked, and he's playing games on you to get you hooked. And either way, it's absolutely unworkable, right? Because do you want to be with somebody who's not that into you? No. Do you want to be with somebody who's going to play out a game to get you to feel a certain way? Because that is a manipulation tactic that people do use out there. So if you are single and if you're newly dating, please take this into consideration. 2 things you must have in relationships non-negotiably. 1, someone who is consistent in their communication. They don't just drop you, they don't withdraw, they don't, suddenly not communicate. And if they do that in the early stages, you have to be like, I don't like the way this was communicated, and they have to be like, I got it, okay, and they have to meet you halfway. Now, number 2 is you both have to be willing to take a look in the mirror and see your own crap so that you can go, this is a blind spot for me. I did this. I can see how this hurt the other person, and be willing to work on it. And that requires a high level of self-esteem. If you don't have a very high self-esteem, when someone criticizes you, you get defensive. So, you know, it can be a tough thing to find. You want somebody who is consistent, and you want somebody who has enough self-esteem to be able to look in a mirror and assess their own weaknesses for the betterment of the moving forward of the relationship. So, as exciting as the jackpot is, as exciting as the good times with your partner was in the beginning, you know, you really want to assess, is this relationship sustainable, and is it workable in a way that's going to, you know, give you a good future? Because I'll be honest with you, right? You and the other person both deserve to be loved for who you actually are. You both are deserving of more than somebody just being hooked on you because some addictive things are firing off because there was an addictive pattern in play. You see what I'm saying? So be good to yourself and, you know, go for what you want. And rah-rah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please watch my video on what do I want to recommend you watch? On the reticular activating system. I always say the same thing. I love that one. Reticular activating system is life, okay? That's great. I would watch the video on emotional thought patterns, okay? And emotional momentum, right? And I think, yeah, I'll leave it there. Please get a copy of my book, Yahoo, and say hi to me. Send me a message or whatever. I'm at Aidan Park Show. Woo woo. All right, bye guys.